On today's show, we've got a couple of stories to talk about. First up, we'll talk about John Cena expressing regret that he apologized in Chinese for calling Taiwan a country. Paramount has launched a hostile takeover in an attempt to buy Warner Brothers with an all-cash offer of 108.4 billion that they're going direct to shareholders. Mariah Carey is teaming with Glad to auction a pro transgender jacket she wore back in August. And we've got a new Avengers Doomsday rumor to discuss as well. So, first up, as I said, we've got John Cena expressing regret for apologizing to China for describing Taiwan as a country, saying, "I pissed off my home country." If you don't recall what exactly happened, he was promoting Fast and Furious 9 back in 2021. He was over in China and he described Taiwan as the first country to watch the film. And obviously, the Chinese were not happy about it. And someone over there demanded that he issue an apology. And he basically issued this hostage apology that the South China Morning Post translated. And he says, "Hi, China. I'm John Cena. I'm in the middle of Fast and Furious 9 promotions. I'm doing a lot of interviews. I made a mistake in one of my interviews. Everyone was asking me if I could use Chinese. Movie staff gave me a lot of information, so there was a lot of interviews and information. I made one mistake. I have to say something very, very, very important now. I love and respect China and Chinese people. I'm very, very sorry about my mistake. I apologize. I apologize. I'm very sorry. You must understand that I really love, really respect China and the Chinese people. My apologies. See you." So now, in an appearance on the Joe Rogan Experience, Cena expressed regret over issuing the apology and even shared he no longer speaks Mandarin at all due to lack of knowledge and wisdom regarding geopolitical issues surrounding China. What I found really interesting about this segment of his interview with the Joe Rogan Experience is that he doesn't actually refer to Fast and Furious 9 as the film that he is promoting. He doesn't make a mention of the name of the movie at all. He always just kind of considers it the movie that he's promoting. He doesn't mention Fast and Furious. He doesn't mention Universal, which was distributing the film, made the film, etc. It was very kind of weird, to say the least. But he kind of goes over what we just went over regarding why he apologized, etc. And he went on and said, "Now over there, they look through a different lens. Like geopolitics are murky waters, man." And that's when I learned of, like, I just said it, left. Everybody was cool. I did my thing. I read the prompt. It was like a Ron Burgundy moment, like, "Go F yourself, San Diego." It was like the most offensive thing you can say. So I'm like, man, good job, John. You did 70% and people understood what you were talking about. Obviously, he's referring to how he wanted to do 70% of his media appearances in China for the Fast and Furious promotion in Chinese because he had learned Mandarin when he was working with the WWE, and they were trying to expand into various different markets across the globe. And he obviously had picked Chinese to do that. Anyways, he went on and said, "You did 70% of people understood what you were talking about," and then they put that out, and everybody was like, "What the f did you just say? That's not how we do it over here." And he said, "And again, my takeaway was a pretty tense moment for me. I had to apologize to China, and in apologizing to China, I pissed off my home country. I'm a patriot. I love the United States of America and everything it stands for, but it was never enough. Nobody was happy. Everybody was obviously upset, and it was like murky waters for me personally, and it was weird. I think I'm the only guy to almost get canceled for doing his homework, trying to like learn and try to do something." He tried to make light of it there. Dude, you weren't getting canceled per se. I mean, you literally caved to the Chinese because you described Taiwan as a country, and you were the one participating in cancel culture. You canceled yourself. Like, anyways, he went on and said, "But the cool takeaway, we can learn from every mistake. My mistake was just because you know the language doesn't mean you know the culture." Additionally, he claimed he didn't know enough about the geopolitics to even properly comment on the topic. "I find that extraordinarily difficult to believe." Again, this was back in 2021. It's now 2025. I'm pretty sure he probably did his research. Remember, this is the guy who took time to learn Chinese to try to expand the WWE's footprint over there. You're telling me you didn't spend any time looking up the geopolitics of that after this event in the 4 years that happened? I just don't believe that. I don't believe that. I find that extraordinarily difficult to believe. Obviously, that's not the charitable take. The charitable take would just take him for what he says. But hard for me to believe this, that he isn't going to comment on any of this because he doesn't know enough about the topic. I think basically the lesson that he really learned is that you try to stay away from hot button issues and not try to say anything controversial. I think that's the real lesson that John Cena took away from this. He learned to ride the fence, try not to rock the boat. And that's just sad. It's pathetic that that's the world that we live in. That is not the world that we should be living in. I mean, Jesus Christ was very clear that he is going to divide us, and we should be sticking with the truth. John Cena here indicating that is not what he is going to do. At least that was kind of my takeaway from that. But anyways, he went on and said that, explained why he no longer even speaks Mandarin due to this incident. He says, I just won't do it. It's a skill that I have, but it's a skill that's going to remain with me. I don't have the depth of field to know what to call that place in that region of the world, and I haven't done enough research. I mean, look at this. He's so cowardly. He doesn't even want to say the name Taiwan anymore, right? And even Joe Rogan was asking him that question. Like, I think they call it Chinese Taipei. I don't think they call it Taiwan. And John Cena, like, literally has to go beat around the bush in order to not even say the word Taiwan. So I think this whole kind of like segment with Joe Rogan is just more part of the humiliation ritual of John Cena. And again, he's still kind of being held hostage, and he's held hostage in his own mind with the cancel culture. So cancel culture hasn't really gone away at all. And obviously the Chinese clearly hold significant sway over him. At least that's kind of, again, that's my takeaway from this. And he says, and I haven't done enough research, and I don't have the wisdom, and I don't have the cultural fluency. So it was a cool lesson. It sucked because I thought I was trying to do something good, but it was a cool lesson. Later in the interview, he did put the blame on himself, said, I got into some water that I shouldn't have been swimming in, but that's on me. It was my fault, and I think that's important for me to bear the burden of that. How do I course correct? What did I learn? Who do I really genuinely have to apologize for offending? So again, he literally does think he genuinely offended someone. And who did he apologize to? He didn't apologize to the Taiwanese. He didn't apologize to his American audience. He apologized to the Chinese, right? I think that, I mean, that's pretty telling, right? The biggest thing that was a kick to the nuts is when people stateside got pissed off because I apologized in Chinese, and I understand completely that bowing down to the demand of this, that gosh, what a another expletive, crappy. I think he used crappy move by me. I should have taken a breath. Again, what did I learn? Don't be reactive. Take a breath. Find out what's going on. Find out the best path of action. Maybe give it a few days. Maybe give it a hot second and then move forward. However, he then shared why he did immediately apologize, saying, but immediately I was like, oh, they're mad? You want us to do this? Fine, no problem. I'll fix it right now. Man, not only did I not try to fix the hole in the boat, I sunk the Titanic. But again, it was a learning experience. So to me, this clearly is him. I thought the whole thing was like a setup for him to kind of address this and try to win back people that he lost. And to me, it's just like doubling down on it. I came away even less impressed with John Cena. So I view him now as an even bigger coward than what he was. I mean, he might not look it. He's got the muscles and everything like that. But to me, this guy doesn't have any kind of spiritual fortitude. Just a giant coward. Moving on, Paramount launches a hostile takeover attempt for Warner Brothers with an all-cash $108.4 billion offer. They shared this in a press release this morning, saying that it was offering up $30 per share to Warner Brothers Discovery shareholders, or an enterprise value of $108.4 billion, which represents a 139% premium to the undisturbed Warner Brothers Discovery stock price of $12.54 as of September 10, 2025. The company offered that this is better than the Netflix deal, which entails a volatile and complex structure valued at $27.75, mix of cash and stock, subject to collar and the future performance of Netflix, equating to an enterprise value of $82.7 billion. If you recall, Netflix offered it a cash and transaction, which we just kind of went over, $27.75. And the transaction is expected to close after the previously announced separation of Warner Brothers Discovery's Global Networks division, Discovery Global, into a new publicly traded company, which is now expected to be completed in Q3 2026. So just to be clear, Netflix was only basically acquiring Warner Brothers and its film and television studios, HBO Max and HBO, but not the Discovery Global business that it also contains, whereas Paramount wants to purchase it all with this kind of hostile takeover bid. On top of claiming it is offering better value, Paramount also suggests that its deal will be approved while Netflix's will be subject to intense regulatory scrutiny. The company said this: Paramount is highly confident in achieving expeditious regulatory clearance for its proposed offer, as it enhances competition and is pro-consumer, while creating a strong champion for creative talent and consumer choice. In contrast, the Netflix transaction is predicated on the unrealistic assumption that its anti-competitive combination with Warner Brothers Discovery, which would entrench its monopoly with a 43% share of global subscription video on demand subscribers, could withstand multiple protracted regulatory challenges across the world. And what I found really interesting is they didn't point to the United States. They pointed to the European Union, first off, saying in many EU countries, the Netflix transaction would combine the dominant SVOD, subscription video on demand, player with the number 2 or strong number 3 competitor. The Netflix transaction creates a clear risk of higher prices for consumers, lower pay for content creators and talent, and the destruction of American and international theatrical exhibitors. Netflix has never undertaken large-scale acquisitions, resulting in increased execution risk, which Warner Brothers Discovery shareholders would have to endure. And then you got some comments there from CEO David Ellison. So definitely something to keep our eyes on with this. To me, at this point, it's just billionaires fighting with billionaires to see who can control this. And at the end of the day, is there really any difference between Netflix and Paramount? Haven't really seen that. I mean, Paramount is still creating woke trash just the same as Netflix. One need look no further than what they've done with Star Trek. What an absolute disaster that is. And Netflix is basically known for race swapping and injecting wokeness into everything that they do. I mean, the memes, the memes are all over there. Here's the real adaptation, and here's the Netflix one. Let's just put a different paint of coat on it, and maybe add some rainbow in there as well. Speaking of rainbow, Mariah Carey is going to auction off a pro-transgender jacket to fund the activist organization GLAAD. So Mariah Carey, known for her Christmas music, especially this time of year, is working to raise money for LGBTQ plus activist organization GLAAD by auctioning off a pro-transgender jacket she wore during the Pride in the Park performance in Brighton, England back in August. The jacket, which perverts pro-life colors, the pro-life colors obviously being blue and pink because those are representative of boys and girls when they're born, right? Usually a boy gets a blue, girl gets a pink. But they've perverted those colors, turned them into a transgender flag, and that you can somehow go from male to female, female to male. Obviously, that's absolutely impossible, even on a biological level. And she wore this jacket that's rhinestone with the phrase "Protect the Dolls." The phrase has been used throughout 2025 after fashion designer Connor Ives used it as a slogan during London Fashion Week to promote gender ideology. And obviously you can see the jacket right there, and you can see it says "Protect the Dolls" on it. The auction of the jacket will specifically go to raise money for GLAAD's transgender media program. According to the Radical organization's website, the program aims to work, quote, with the media to fairly and accurately tell the stories of transgender lives. GLAAD works with national news outlets, TV networks, film studios, and Spanish language media to include real stories about transgender people. GLAAD also works closely with transgender people and transgender advocacy groups to raise awareness about transgender issues. GLAAD provides free trainings to empower transgender people to share their stories in the media. For all intents and purposes, the program is literal propaganda to promote an objective evil and disordered lifestyles, and Mariah Carey is clearly participating in this evil by raising funds for it. And then obviously she did a whole concert for it as well. She's clearly trying to push this wicked, evil agenda. And just to be clear, we have clear instruction on why this is so wrong. In Dignitas Infinita, the Catholic Church says this: all attempts to obscure reference to the ineliminable sexual difference between man and woman are to be rejected. We cannot separate the masculine and the feminine from God's work of creation, which is prior to all our decisions and experiences, and where biological elements exist which are impossible to ignore. Only by acknowledging and accepting this difference in reciprocity can each person fully discover themselves, their dignity, and their identity. Additionally, the document lists gender theory as one of a number of grave violations of human dignity. And Carey is no stranger to promoting this wicked ideology. She's been doing it for years now. Back in 2019, she was selling merchandise. Fast forward to 2022, she's holding special screenings for this degenerate sodomy-filled film, Bros, that Billy Eichner made. Absolutely disgusting film. And then in 2023, she's appearing at Pride festivals, LA Pride, announcing that. And then obviously she just did that one in Brighton Park in August. And here's another look at the jacket. And you can see what she said after the that festival or whatever you want to call it. She said, special heartfelt thank you to the LGBTQ plus community for your ongoing support. I will always be there for you. Love, Mariah Carey. So just wicked, evil stuff here coming from Mariah Carey. And she's funding wickedness and evil too by raising money for GLAAD. Finally, we got this Avengers Doomsday rumor right here, claiming that it will act as a direct sequel to Endgame. Obviously, the implication there is that if it's a direct sequel, then what about all the other things that were actual sequels already to Endgame? Are they just going away? Don't really know about that. We shall see. Obviously, there were huge rumors regarding Star Wars about that. None of that came to fruition. In fact, the upcoming Star Wars Starfighter film is literally set 5 years after the Rise of Skywalker, so still set within that same timeline, not erasing those films whatsoever. But anyways, this latest rumor comes from scooper Daniel Rickman. He reacted to a post announcing that Marvel will re-release Avengers Endgame into theaters in September 2026, just a few months ahead of Avengers Doomsday's release in December. And he wrote this, makes sense. Avengers Doomsday acts like a direct sequel to Endgame. And again, this isn't new to Daniel Rickman. People have been talking about this for years now. Sil Abdul said back in 2023 that these movies were going to be basically a soft reboot for the MCU. And he said in a video, is this going to reboot the MCU as we know it? Now, the concept in 2015, Jonathan Hickman's Secret Wars, is that all of these different Earths were kind of molded together. Yes, Feige is basically taking pieces of stuff that he wants to keep from all of these different realities, and he's going to put it together as a new Marvel universe. He then reiterated saying the MCU Earth 616 as we know it, that's going to be gone. Not as far as erasing the history of the stories, but that's not going to be the same Marvel universe by the end of Secret Wars. So clearly trying to do what they've been doing in the comics for years with these soft reboots. I'm not sure how long that will last. I already feel like the MCU has peaked, and I don't think it's ever going to hit those Endgame levels. But again, we've seen this before. Scooper, Can We Get Toast, also said Feige is making Secret Wars the send-off to not only the current MCU, but all the Marvel movies that came before Iron Man. And he described it as the ultimate soft reboot to make way for something all new and all different. And we also have actually heard from Joe Russo, one of the film's directors. He described the film as a new beginning earlier this year in an interview with Spanish language The Omelet. I'm not sure if they're Spanish language. They might be Portuguese, because I know they do a lot of the stuff in Brazil. But he said this, what's compelling about these two new Avengers movies, Doomsday and Secret Wars, is they are a beginning. It's a new beginning. So we told an ending story. Now we're telling a beginning story, and then who knows where we'll go from there. So again, sounds like a soft reboot, sounds like a reboot, even from Joe Russo. So we shall see. But like I said, I'm not interested in this. I feel like it's peaked. I haven't really watched any of the Marvel stuff that's come out since Endgame. I haven't even watched the Spider-Man movies. So we'll see. Obviously, the Spider-Man stuff is still done well at the box office. We saw Deadpool and Wolverine did pretty solid. But for the most part, a lot of this stuff is way down. You can look at Guardians of the Galaxy. You look at Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. You look at the Marvels, which I think just did barely over 200,000 total at the box office. I know it was sitting at 199 for an extraordinarily long time, and I think it's at like 206 now or something like that. So clearly interest has waned. Most of the TV shows that they release now are absolute disasters, don't even break into Nielsen's ratings, and and that's even with their increased subscriber growth on Disney Plus. So you've got more subscribers and less people are watching the Marvel shows. So indicating that there isn't a lot of demand for those Marvel shows, or the people who are subscribing to Disney Plus aren't doing it to watch the Marvel shows. So we'll keep our eyes on this, but I don't know. I'm not really feeling any hype for it. It's still a year out. We'll see. We haven't seen anything from it, but interesting to hear that it's going to be it's being described as a direct sequel to Endgame, indicating that, yeah, it likely could be a soft reboot, and they're basically going to ignore all the trash that came after Endgame. But they might try to ignore all that stuff, but we saw it. We saw what they were trying to do, and maybe they're hoping that we'll have memory like a goldfish, but I just don't see that happening, especially when you could still just go back and like look at just how bad and awful this stuff is, and they did it for so many years. People aren't going to forget that easily. But that's what we've got today on the show. We'll be back tomorrow. Remember to always be charitable, especially to each other, and to always, always speak the truth.
Why would you be afraid of the people? Why are you not afraid of God instead of man?